Hey Flock, welcome to the assembly guide for the Mandalorian Super Commandos from the Star Wars Shatterpoint core set. Before you get started, I recommend downloading the official assembly instructions from epicduck.com/shatterpoint. In this video, I'll be building both the male and female commandos, starting with the male. Both are pretty straightforward builds, but the female commando has a few delicate pieces you'll want to clip with care. I'm using a pair of God Hand PN125 nippers. These run around 25 to 30 bucks and are worth every cent. I'll be assembling these minis using Mr. Hobby Mr. Cement S. This is a thin plastic cement very similar to Tamiya Extra Thin, except it's easier for me to get locally. When you're using flush cutters like these, you generally want to keep the flat side as close to the model as you can and the angled side away from it. The closer you can cut, the less you need to clean up. There's no real surprises or tricky parts with the male commando. The pieces are fairly large and easy to clip and clean. I recommend only clipping the parts you'll be using for this character and saving the rest for later. Here I'm using a hobby knife to lightly scrape away mold lines and trim any little bumps left where the parts attach to the frame. There aren't many mold lines to worry about, but you'll find some on the jet exhaust and along the legs. With the parts cleaned, I'm ready for assembly. I'm using a bottle cap with some poster tack to hold the back of the torso while I apply plastic cement. This prevents me from getting cement all over my fingers and fingerprints all over the model. Once the two halves of the torso are pushed together, I give the whole piece a good squeeze to make sure it's well seated. Next, I'll attach the legs to the torso, first the left, then the right. Apply the plastic cement to the keyed hole on the torso and slide the leg into place. Once the leg is in place, you'll want to push firmly in the direction of the joint to make sure the contact is tight. I started with the left leg because it's raised while the right leg is outstretched. If done the other way, the right leg might make getting the left leg in a bit harder. Next, I'm attaching the arms. These can be done in any order because they don't get in each other's way at all. As with the legs, add cement to the pocket on the torso and slide the arm into place before pushing it down firmly. The commando's helmet is in two parts. You'll want to add cement to the back half and push the front into place. I really should have used my poster tack handle here, but thankfully no glue ran under my fingers. Next, I apply cement to the neck joint on the torso. When you're putting the helmet in place, keep in mind this mini is looking slightly to his right. I'm almost done this mini and it's time to attach his jetpack. There's a generous key on the torso and the jetpack fits easily over it. Once the part is in place, firmly push on the front of the torso and the back of the jetpack. Finally, I just need to glue the exhaust to the base. There's a large flat area on the bottom of the exhaust to apply cement to. If you find your cement is drying too fast to cover an area this large, you can try using a slower drying cement like testers, or use super glue here instead. Once the character is centered on the base, push down and hold the mini for a few seconds to ensure a good contact. Okay, the male commando is done and we're halfway there. Even though she's a bit smaller and not flying, the female commando is the more challenging build. Yeah, so that's a thing that happened. Thankfully the part didn't shoot far. The torso, arms, and helmet parts are pretty easy to clip. The tassets on her hips are very thin, and you'll want to clip them carefully so they don't stress. The jetpack is tricky though. You can easily mistake the two jet nozzles for sprue and clip them right off. There's a very fine line where the nozzle ends. Cut with the flat side of your cutters just below that. With all the parts cut from the frame, we're back to cleaning again. I'm being extra careful trimming down the sprue bumps on the tassets. They're thin and easy to damage. There aren't many mold lines on this character, but there are a few bumps from the sprue to shave down, such as the bottom of the pistol grip. The last part I need to clean up is the jetpack. I'm using a small, flat file to lightly grind down where I clipped the part from the frame on each nozzle. It's assembly time again, and the poster tack bottle cap is back. I'm applying cement to the back of the torso, then pushing the front in place before firmly squeezing the two parts together. This time I'm going to be smart and use the same method for assembling the helmet. This model is in a kneeling pose. You can attach the legs in any order. They don't get in each other's way. Add the plastic cement to the torso and firmly push each leg into place. Here I'm attaching the tasset to the right leg. It may have been smarter to attach both legs first before the tassets, but this turns out fine. Attaching the left leg is pretty routine at this point. Cement in the pocket on the torso, push firmly. With the tasset on her left hip, I want to wiggle it a bit to make sure it makes light contact with the right tasset at her back. This is why it might have been smarter to attach both legs before tassets, so that the right tasset was still somewhat adjustable. I'm lightly pushing on both hips to help make the tassets meet. For the last few steps, I'm attaching the left arm and helmet before the right arm. The right arm is held at an upward angle and might make attaching the helmet a bit more difficult if it was already there. When attaching the helmet, keep in mind this character is looking to their left. The right arm slides up under the shoulder pad rather than pushing straight in. Now it's time to attach the jetpack. Apply plastic cement to the pocket on the back of the torso and push the jetpack firmly into place. Give the torso and jetpack a good squish to make sure it's well seated. Finally, we just need to attach the Mini to a base. There's 3 contact points, both feet and her right knee, which you'll want to add cement to. Firmly push down on the Mini and hold it for a few seconds to let the cement do its thing. And we're done! Both Mandalorian Super Commandos are ready for paint. Thanks for watching, and until next time, do something epic.